The Stone Cold Classics skating in blue and the Craft Heads skating in yellow. I'm Rusty and this is Gaz, and we're going to be keeping you up to date with what's going on in the game today. For those of you that is your first roller derby game, is there anybody watching who hasn't been before? Cool, we'll try and keep you up to date with what's going on, but ask the person next to you, they probably have a pretty good idea as well. Okay, so we're about ready for the team skate out, so as soon as I get the thumbs up, we'll welcome the Stone Cold Classics for their skate out and introduce you to the skaters. So, number 1-4 is Red Peril, 1-4-5 Ruby Dread, number 1-5 Medical Emergency, 504 is Retroflex, 29 Whiskey Business, 8008 Venomous, number 86 is Bolt, and 81 Scrappy. And we've got three skaters tonight playing their first game for Rector City. So in blue, Retroflex, it's their first game, and Sumami and Your Mom playing in yellow, also their first game with Rector City. So good luck to all of them. We're about 45 seconds away, so I'll do a quick intro for our officials tonight. You've got Pseudo Stripes, Dr. Reva Song, Rosebots in Disguise, Arsehole, Just Libby, Cupcake, V for Vendetta, Scathing Grace, Spins and Needles, End of Daisy, Greta Growlia, Crash, and Vengeful. Thank you to all of our officials and Swifty. Thank you to all the officials. It feels like there are a lot of officials in this game. It's because there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things for the refs to be keeping an eye on and communicating back to make sure we get the right score up on the scoreboard. So game couldn't happen without their expertise. We're now kind of in the hands of the refs. As soon as they're ready, we'll get going. So this first game is what we're calling a rapid round. So it's a shorter version of roller derby, and then the second game will be a full regulation length. So this first game is 20 minutes each half. Good. Sumami lining up to jam for the Craft Heads, and Ruby Dread jamming for Stone Cold Classics in blue. Sumami almost getting through on the inside line, but hit out and having to recycle to the back of the pack, but Ruby Dread is called lead. And that looks like a penalty being assessed to Sumami, so they will now spend 30 seconds in the Garage Project penalty box, which leaves the Stone Cold Classics able to score unopposed for the next 30 seconds. And the Stone Cold Classics opting to stay pretty stationary on the track, try and make it easier for their jammer to catch up and get around to get another pass. Meanwhile, Sumami has been released from the penalty box and so is now attempting to complete what we call the initial pass. So what happens is that when the jammers initially start in the jam, they need to get through and past the opposing pack to be able to then come back around and score on their next pass. Okay, so we're lining up for jam number 2. As Gaz said, this game is a points-based game. There is no ball. And the way you score points is by passing the hips of people on the opposing team. So your jammers with the stars, they are trying to get past people on the other team. The people in their pack are called blockers, and they are both playing offense and defense at the same time. So trying to make opportunities for their jammer to get past and also trying to stop the opposing jammer from getting past. Your mom out and lead for the craft heads. Great way to start a first game. Your mom through and scoring points. Leighton Bolt trying to make a last-ditch effort to catch them on the way out of the front of the pack, but is able to hold on to them. It's called a rapid round. Someone on the chat asking for a rocket round. It's a rapid round. So this is a non-regulation length game. This first game is featuring a mix of players who are new to roller derby. So some of them, it is their first game or their first season, and some more experienced people. And then the second game will be a mix of our A and B team players. So it's a really smart call-off to stop medical emergency from getting more than 1 point.
Yes, absolutely. For those of you who roll derby, the lead jammer can call off the jam at any point by tapping the hand on their hips. And they'll stop the guarantee, which you usually do to stop the opposing jammer scoring any points.
Number 813 is Dangerous Person and Retroflex in 504. This is both of their first game for Rector City tonight, so it's great to see them on the track. Dangerous Person is out and quickly is called lead jammer. You can tell who the lead jammer is because the ref is pointing at them just like you're seeing right now. So the score now sits at 21 for the Stone Cold Classics in blue and 12 for the Craft Heads in yellow. Comet. So both jammers just taking a little bit of time to work out what their best path through is. Dizzy Gillespie playing some great offense there for Comet, really clearing the inside line for them. Not quite able to take advantage of that. And Medical Emergency is out and is lead jammer for the Stone Cold Classics. And you could see as the Stone Cold Classics were setting up there that defensive wall at the back of the pack, Yellow was already sending in one of their offense players to try and mess with that and make the path easier through. So you'll see that happen quite a lot in these games where one pack will be trying to make a wall to stop the jammer and someone else will be coming back and trying to mess that opportunity for the jammer to get through. So Sumami now lining up to jam against Ruby Dread from the Stone Cold Classics. Both jammers are kind of held up in the pack there, trying to find ways through. And beautiful work on the inside line for Sumami to just tiptoe their way through. The inside line is the jammer's friend. And okay, so you may notice here Sumami coming back to pick up the helmet cover which came off their head. The rules of this game are if you don't have the star showing, you can't score points. So really smart for them to notice that that had happened. There was a moment where I almost said something there. and a back block penalty being assessed to Tsunami, so that will give Ruby Dread the opportunity to score points unopposed for 30 seconds. So this means that the Stone Cold Classics have one job to do, rather than both doing offence and defence. They've just got offence. That's whiskey business. So the craft head's opting to try and speed up the pace of the pack a little bit so that it makes it a little harder for Ruby Dread to get through. It also means that when Tsunami enters the pack, she's right there. Doesn't have to skate half a lap to catch up to everybody. Keep going. $33 to the Stone Cold Classics and 15 to the Craft Heads. It's still a pretty close game. And the team with the most points at the end of the game wins. So it's kind of the most important rule. Yeah, I nearly got a tattoo when it was the old rule set, which would have made it a really bad tattoo to be 3.1.2. I don't even know what that is anymore. There's a lot of rules. Kind of like our version of the offside rule. I don't understand football, but I reckon it probably is. Yeah. There's a ball. You have to be on one side of it. So medical emergency really having to work hard here, being sort of pushed side to side by that three wall of Dizzy Gillespie, Serrated Edge and Ada's shove race. They're doing a great job. Manages to not stay in bounds. Almost. Your mom now is skating unopposed for the Craft Heads and picking up points. So they're going to try and take advantage of that by, looks like what they're doing is sort of playing a player-on-player kind of offence, trying to take out the defensive blockers and make space for their jammer. It's pretty boring just watching 8 people stand around do nothing. Gooch is right around the outside, on toe stops and manages to get around Dizzy Gillespie, picking up points for their team. And that's the end of the jam. So you'll see in this next jam what we call a power jam start. So the team in blue is going to start with a jammer and the team in yellow will not have a jammer. So an advantage for that team. So Ruby Dread lining up for the Stone Cold Classics and aiming to get out and get some points before your mom rejoins the action. Just has Bickies to beat at the front of the pack. Bickies a veteran of the sport but playing an incredible game there at the front, just holding on. Oh, lovely toe stops from Ruby Dread through the inside to Apex. So your mom made a really good decision there to use the confusion of everything else that was going on just to kind of sneak through relatively unnoticed, which was very smart. And in probably 1 or 2 jams, you know, it doesn't take a huge amount in roller derby for you to kind of pick up 20 points. Yeah, exactly. So that appears that the craft heads are calling a timeout. Each team gets 3 timeouts per game, plus an official review that you can use in each half, which can sometimes strategically be used for a little timeout and catch your breath as well. So teams will often call these timeouts strategically, where they just want to stop the momentum of the other team, where they need to kind of regroup and have a chat about what's working for them and what's not. And kind of just make sure that they're working really well together. Particularly today, these teams are both playing with quite a small number of people on their team. Normally we play with up to 15 people, so you get a little bit more of a rest. So it could quite possibly be that this is a good time for the teams to just kind of take a breather and regroup. Yeah, I'm into it. We're in for a treat. Hey, just while we're kind of having this time out, just wanted to also give a big thanks to Garage Project. They have been sponsoring Rector City Roller Derby for 10 years. Really grateful for all that they do to kind of help us keep this going. And also to Kapanua, who make our really great uniforms, are based just further up the coast in Levin, and really happy to have them as part of our sponsor stable as well. Dangerous person. Oh, lovely little hop to get past. That was Latin Bolt number 86. Meanwhile, medical emergency round and scoring points. I was just thinking that the skating style just looks like out for a little stroll, but just racking up points. Pushed back in. Ruby Dread only recently joined Rector City, sort of mid last year, so quickly kind of made their mark as one of the jammers of note for our B team. The power is in her hands. Comet straight up the inside line and scoring points. Ruby Dread deciding to keep going rather than to stop Comet from scoring points. So trusting herself to be able to get around and get more points before Comet approaches, and calls off the jam before Comet can put another set of points on the board.
So Ruby Dread scoring 2 points on the pass, making it 6 points that jam from 4 points for Crafters. Which means that we have a
25-point split, yeah. Something like that. The piece of the pizza slice thing.
It's the pizza slice score. The pizza slice score.
So there's 5 minutes remaining in this first half of the game. So things are starting to kind of take shape in terms of how the scoreline's going to go. Having said that, Sumami through and is lead jammer for the craft heads. So this may be their opportunity to put some more points on the board. Meanwhile, medical emergency being really held up by that front wall of Dangerous Person, Edge and Bickies, but is now out and making their way around the track to score. Will Sumami call it off, or will Sumami keep going? They keep going. Bench is calling to Sumami to call. Crew, and their job is to make sure that both teams have the right number of people on the track and that they are wearing the helmet covers that they need to. And they also will be coaching from their corner telling the jammers and the blockers whether they want them to call the jam off, whether they should keep going, or if there is anything else they need to know about what's happening in the game. It's a really important job. So that is Dizzy Gillespie jamming for the Craft Heads, and that is Whiskey Business jamming for the Stone Cold Classic. So this is Whiskey's first season, and this is Dizzy Gillespie. They've been with Record City for a little while now, and they play our B team.
This is the second weekend in a row for the Craft Heads, which they will be very pleased about.
But they're making up the difference. It's now 51-33, so already just in the last two jams, they've really closed that gap. Whiskey Business having a time, held up by a wall of Edge, Your Mom, and Bickies, and Ada Shove Race getting in the mix as well, just to really kind of make life difficult for Whiskey. And Dizzy out the front again, able to get some points now. Everyone in the Stone Cold Classics team just really trying to spring Whiskey out at the front. Ada Shove Race doing a great job of just not letting them past. And meanwhile, Dizzy Gillespie out for another pass. So this could be the sort of the turning of the tide for the score. Which makes them the jammer. Just to add to the complexity of what's going on, right? Someone once described roller derby to me as playing chess while someone throws bricks at you, which I think is a pretty good explanation of what it feels like sometimes. So there's a lot going on strategically, and then you've also got to watch out because someone's probably going to hit you at some point. So you're thinking about a lot of things all at the same time. Medical Emergency is now jamming for the Stone Cold Classics, and I can't quite see who is jamming for... It's Comet. Now that last jam was a real turning of the tide. So the score is now 51 for the Stone Cold Classics and 45 for the Craft Heads. So we've gone from almost a 2-1 scoring at 50-25 to now it's only 6 points in it. So it can really change quite quickly.
However, the damage for the Craft Heads is sitting in the penalty box and out for the Stone Cold Classics is Medical Emergency. It's been a high scoring
Dangerous Person really going for that last minute hit, but not able to stop Medical Emergency. Ada Shove Race calling to the team to get together to get ready for defence. So they're all really just focused on stopping Medical Emergency from getting through and getting points. Comet now rejoining the pack, so both teams will be keeping an eye on both jammers, making sure that they are aware of where they are and what they need to be doing to either stop the jammer or help their jammer. So 20 minutes, just like that. Sure does. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and we'll be back for the second half of the game. Just want to let you know the food situation. So we've got mac and cheese, toasted sandwiches, and jalapeno, also good. So make yourself known to the team over here. They'll help you with some kai. And then also at the bar, we have a range of Garage Project beers, their new alcoholic seltzer, and also a range of non-alcoholic drinks as well. So use the time wisely to refuel. We'll see you soon. one blocker in the penalty box, so they'll be at a disadvantage. I didn't see that penalty at the last jam, but... So actually that's a good thing for us to talk about. So a lot of the rules are about safety. So there are legal zones where you're able to make contact with someone, and there are illegal ones. And most of the illegal ones are really about not hitting them in the head, not hitting somebody with your head, not hitting people in the back. Really are the main ones. No tripping, no using your elbows, no pushing people over with your hands. No. And that's Retro Flex for the Stone Cold Classics. And is able to make it through on the inside line and is now the lead jammer. Really nice rotation there by Edge to kind of close off that inside line in the last moment there. No, that... A little bit, closing it down. So it was 2 points for the Craft Heads and 1 point for the Stone Cold Classics. So Comet able to steal a point in that last seconds of the game. Tsunami in yellow jamming there, and that is 157 Medical Emergency for the Stone Cold Classics. Tsunami trying to get that inside line. Dizzy Gillespie opening it up, but not quite enough for Mummy to take advantage of it. Meanwhile, Medical Emergency trying to sneak around the outside without being noticed. They are the lead jammer. So, and this becomes a really important advantage when you're playing a tight game because you want to... Medical Emergency doing their best to try and maybe steal a point, but not able to do that. That's 0. Score points becomes a huge advantage and is a really strategic way of managing both the scoreboard and the time that's remaining on the playing clock. Dangerous person attacking that front wall with a bit of help in offense by Dizzy Gillespie, and then that is Ruby Dread facing off against a really solid wall, Ada Chavrace, Edge and Bickies, and some offense coming to her assistance from Venomous. Meanwhile though, Dangerous Person is coming around to score points. Latin Bolt has eyes all over them and is not letting them pass. Great work there. And calls the jam off. So it looks like Bickies is going to jam now for the Craft Heads. We love to see it. And Medical Emergency jamming for the Stone Cold Classics. Both teams starting with a full complement of blockers and jammers. Bickies trying a couple of routes around, just jumping in and out, and then manages to find an inside line. But meanwhile, Medical Emergency has already got lead jammer and is racing around the track. quite sure how many points got put on the board for either team there. Not quite able to see. It looks like 3 points for the Stone Cold Classics and 2 for Craft Heads.
So 1 point difference in that jam. Companies coming out fast.
And that makes this half relatively even so far. So points are still at 69 to the Stone Cold Classics and 54 for Craft Heads. So pretty even. Venomous is now jamming for the Stone Cold Classics and Dangerous Person coming back up for the Craft Heads. So we're starting to sort of see some kind of common matchups here, and Dangerous Person having a great game today.
Dangerous Person is dusting those balls over left, right, and center. And after lead there, got followed close to behind by Venus.
Both packs kind of opting to really sort of set up in a stationary wall position, ready to catch those jammers as they come back around. And it looks like Venomous was able to scooch through and pick up a few points there just before that jam got called off as well.
Actually, Venus
Got all 4, I think.
got all 4 points, but only 3 points for the Craft Heads.
So that was a win.
There was a win for the Stone Cold Classics despite the Craft Heads and the lead jammer.
So Whiskey Business now coming out to jam for the Stone Cold Classics. Timeout being called by the Craft Heads, so using one of those breaks we get. We're going to have some dancing on the track. Looks like no, okay, we're back to being enemies again now. There's not really any such thing as an enemy in roller derby, though, is it? Yeah, frenemies, yeah. It is one of the nice things about the sport, though, right? Is you can kind of like hit someone over, put them on the ground, and then give them a hand up and a hug on the way up. Yeah. So both teams here look like they're taking this time to catch their breath, have a corridor amongst themselves about what they want to do from here on in. There's about 14 minutes remaining in this game, and it is turning out to be a pretty close one. While we're doing this, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of our sponsors. So we are really fortunate to, normally we have a raffle at these games. We don't have one today, but come back again next time. We are really well supported by people like Ico, Karma Drinks, Rich Coffee, Thunderpants, and Open Skate. Open Skate's a project created by one of our league members, Dex, who's recently just been to the World Cup to do a photography project, which is pretty exciting. So you can, they've got some stickers for sale on the merch table if you fancy one of those. I'm sure there is. I'm sure if you put the little Open Skate into your little Google machine, it will come up. I can't quite remember the URL when it's not written down. Tsunami jamming now, facing up against Whiskey Business. Whiskey Business really sort of battling a wall of blocks at the front, and Vicky's there with a really great hit out and recycle. So hit Whiskey Business out and then skated all the way back to the back of the pack, which made Whiskey have to come all the way back and in behind them as well. Hey, look, and that thing that you were talking about before has just happened, Gaz. So Whiskey Business still jamming there, hit over a couple of times, but up and out. So what you saw happen there was anymore. So you have to be a little bit clever about when you do it. It means that you lose that advantage, but it is a really smart thing to do if your jammer is just not able to get out of the pack or is tired or perhaps is kind of just feeling like it's not working for them. It gives you a backup option. That's right. During a no-pack situation, no one can initiate contact with anybody else. So you kind of want to get back into a pack situation pretty quickly, otherwise you're ineffective.
Now, right at the end of the game, we saw another star pass. Our pivot became Nick Jenner. They did not get that star on the head, but they did do a pass through that with very clean hand.
Indeed. And sometimes that's actually all you want from the star pass, right? Sometimes it's about getting the star out of the pack so that the other team calls off the jam is really sometimes all you're looking for.
And while we can't say let's get the star on the pivot, as soon as the star is in your hand as the pivot, you are officially the game. We have to put down
Oh, lovely attempt there by Dizzy Gillespie to kind of hit Maddie out and able to recycle them right back. New jammer for the craft heads, that's Serrated Edge, who is out and is lead jammer and can't quite believe it, but is going with it. So Edge is now in control of this jam, looking to score some points and hopefully have some advantage before Maddie is able to do so. Maddie always looks like they're having the time of their lives as soon as they've got roller skates on. It's because roller skating is fun. Has no one told you that? Sounds great. Sign me up. How do I find out more, guys? Tell me more. You do. Richter City actually runs some Learn to Skate and Learn to Derby programs. So if this has kind of got you interested, look that up. We run them twice a year. And then our skaters graduate from learning to skate to learning to play roller derby to playing in the league. And some of the people you're seeing on the track tonight have recently done that. As did I. Neither could I. The business. To be fair, when Richter City first started back in 2008, I'm going to say 8, someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, everyone was just teaching themselves to skate. There wasn't a program to kind of take you through. You know, the legendary tales of roller skating in a car park with pillars everywhere, or the venue we used to have where you couldn't hit anyone to the outside because it was too narrow. And now look at us. The lofty heights to which we have risen as a league. But honestly, roller derby is one of sort of the faster growing sports in the world, and I think what is wonderful about it is there's a kind of a place for everyone in this sport. Beautiful work by Dangerous Person there, just straight out the outside and out for lead jammer. Women. And Richter City is also a gender-inclusive league, so there is absolutely a place for everybody in this sport. Oh, is indeed. Medical emergency now lining up to jam, and we're seeing Comet come out for the craft heads. So the score is starting to kind of settle here. There's 87 points to the Stone Cold Classics and 71 to the craft heads. It's been pretty even this half. That is not the same kind of spread as what we saw at the end of the first half. And Whiskey Business and Comet kind of tangled up there, but meanwhile, Medical Emergency, that grin still on their face as they skate round the outside and through for lead jammer. And it looks like the crafters are kind of lining themselves on the inside line to really clear some space for Comet as they came round, but Medical Emergency said, no thank you, I'm going to call that off now while I have the advantage. So Retroflex is lining up and Ada Shove Race is coming out to jam for the craft heads. Yeah, lovely work. And Dangerous Person doing a great job of hitting Retroflex out and then running backwards a bit so that Retroflex had to also recycle behind them. It was working really well with Dangerous Person there. Look, Dangerous Person just coming all the way back and saying, no, you have to come in behind me, thank you very much. Really smart move from that team. Nice work there from Ada Shove Race, just really muscling their way through on the inside line. And we have a star pass to Scrappy, who is now going to be the jammer for the Stone Cold Classics. Ada calls off the jam, putting some really great score on the board there, really narrowing the gap. So we're now sitting at 79 for the Craft Heads and 91 for the Stone Cold Classics. Now you might be wondering what all of these people in stripes are doing. Keeping it safe, keeping it legal, telling us when we've done some things that aren't so good. So we have 2 refs on the outside. They're the outside pack refs. We have 1 ref for each jammer, so they're keeping an eye on the jammers and counting their points and making sure that they're doing everything legal. And then we have 2 refs on the inside as well, who are keeping track of all the things that you need to be able to see for the blockers. Whiskey Business has just been called lead jammer. Sumami not far behind them. Scrappy. I think we should call it magic hats from now on. A big pile up in the apex there, so it looks like Umami went down underneath medical emergency. One of the other fun things about roller derby is you get to choose a name, which is quite fun. And there are a lot of people in this sport that I don't even know what their actual name is. I only know them by the name they've chosen. With a mouth guard in. Oh, it's a tight game now. So this is really tight, really tight. Red Peril now lining up to jam. Although they've just taken the helmet cover off, so maybe they're not. Interesting decision to call a timeout now when you've got the momentum. But maybe it's a strategic decision to regroup. True. That is true. I can smell something delicious. If you haven't had any kai yet, I would get. Is there any mac and cheese left? Is there any mac and cheese left? Sorry for those of you at home. Yes? But get in fast. We can attest that it is delicious. Add the hot sauce, you won't regret it. Oh, we were a little keen on that. So we're now seeing Red Peril line up to jam. Haven't seen them on the jam line so far this evening. And that is Comet for the Craft Heads as well. Both packs starting with the penalty box open. We actually haven't seen many people in the penalty box so far in this game. Red easily just cutting up through the inside line there and is now lead jammer. Calls off the jam. Now it's 10 points. Yeah. Still anybody's game. Although we haven't seen the craft heads take the lead in a while yet, so they'll need to kind of pull out a couple of big jams. Totally doable. They just need a bit of momentum to make that happen. Yeah. Both of these players having a really great jamming night. Dangerous Person just really putting on the pressure to try and push Scrappy out of the way, but unable to do so and has recycled round to the back. Meanwhile, in the apex, there's a wall of blockers from Craft Heads holding Ruby Dread back. Just long enough for Dangerous Person to be awarded lead jammer. Takes a spill on the outside turn. And listens to the bench who is saying, call off the jam before Ruby gets any points. So, smart decision made there by the Craft Heads. Although running out of time to make up that 10-point difference. Venomous just making it very clear that they would like to call a timeout. Standing right by the timekeeper and waiting for the 25 seconds. And I'm calling a timeout. So, 3 and a bit minutes left in this game, Gaz. It's gone pretty fast, and it's still a really close game. I would love to see an overtime jam. Should we tell you what happens in an overtime jam? No, but when it does, it's really exciting. So in an overtime jam, happens like a normal jam, except that there is no lead jammer. The first, and then basically both jammers are out and both jammers start scoring after they've completed that initial pass. Has it changed? It's been a while since I did an overtime jam. Straight away. So same set, yeah. So that's that. So the main point of it is there is no lead jammer and you can't call it off. It's going for 2 minutes. We'd like to see one though. Tsunami straight through on the inside line. Red not far behind. Tsunami is the lead jammer. Yes, they're going to call it off. So at this point in the game, the Craft Heads really need to make the most of every kind of advantage they have because they are running out of time to make up that point difference.
Every moment counts. They want that time, they want those wins, and they want those points, most importantly.
Exactly.
The last few games, we've seen 5 points get lead, but Central West is 2 points out in front when they're pushing back, which is sports card, which is more than 4 points.
Ruby Dread just making it to the track in time before the whistle. So lovely work by Edge there. Whistle's being blown. Someone is going to the penalty box. Or else is a penalty. Well, you can skate in the other direction, you just can't make contact with someone when you're going in the other direction. Edge thinking, do I want to do this? No, thank you very much. I'm going to call that off. So it's now 97 points to the Stone Cold Classics and 91 to the Craft Heads. So 6 points in it. If you were a betting person, my scoreboard's so Dangerous Person coming out to jam and Ruby Dread for the Stone Cold Classics. A great light matchup that we've seen quite a few times so far. Vicky's coming in straight away to play some offense to really help Dangerous Person get out. Ruby Dread, though, able to get out the front and get lead. or they could call it off, which is what they've... And a real advantage for the craft heads, right? So they now get to skate unopposed for the 30 seconds that Ruby Dread is in the penalty box. That's their opportunity to make up these last 2 points that they need for a lead change. How incredibly exciting would that be? That is a lead change in the last jam of this game, people. We love to see it. And the period clock only has 14 seconds left on it, and the jam has 50 seconds left on it. For those of you who like maths, that means the jam will end and the game will end at the same time. I'm kind of holding my breath, but Ruby Dread is just kind of out here skating laps, putting up as many points as possible in the dying 5 seconds of this game. It's huge jam. We're starting the way we finished. 16 points in that last jam for Ruby Dread and went to the penalty box for 30 seconds of it. That's pretty impressive. Everything happened in that last jam. The first lead change of the game. Indeed. I'm just waiting for the score to become the official score. This is it. Well done to the Stone Cold Classics. Great game by the craft heads. Made it really exciting in the end there. Some star passes with the magic hats. All we needed was an overtime jam, but I reckon we got pretty close to that with a couple of lead changes in the last jam. Thank you. So if you would like to come down and congratulate the teams, you're welcome to come and stand around the edge of the track, as you'll see the officials and the craft heads doing right now. They're going to be doing high fives if you wanted to come in and join in to do that. Not compulsory, but sort of. Stick around. The next game will start at 6:30, and that will be a full-length game featuring Stone Cold Classics and craft heads. I will be here for continuity, and I'll be joined by Dangerous Person, who's going to come and MC with me for the second game. Total pro. More, yeah, I'd like that. More no one going to the penalty box, and most importantly, no one needing the ambulance. I love it most when I come to roller derby and our medical professionals who we have here look bored. Exactly. Okay, well, I'm signing out. I'll see you at 6:30. Thanks for coming for the first game, and yeah, get some food, get some beverages, get warm, get ready for the next game. Proud support from Garage Project. We have two teams playing tonight. They are the Stone Cold Classics and the Craft Heads. I'm joined by Dangerous Person, who you may have seen jamming their heart out in the last game. The lineup now shifts to our A and B team skaters with some few friends from around the region, so we'll welcome them onto the track shortly. Big shout out to Roller Derby Streaming New Zealand. They are proud kind of fans and supporters of roller derby all the way across New Zealand, and if you're enjoying their stream tonight and you can spare a few dollars, please flick some their way if you possibly can. We are incredibly indebted to the work that Colin and Lee do for the wider derby community. So we are about getting ready for our skaters to get onto the track. As soon as we have the go-ahead from the officials team, we'll do the skate out, but in the meantime, kind of settle in, get ready. It's going to be a really exciting game. What are you hoping to see in this game? I like that. What about some magic hats? Did you hear us talking about that? Yeah, there were a couple. And an overtime jam would really kind of set my heart on fire, actually. You can kind of really set. Have you ever seen one happen? This could be your lucky night, Dangerous Person. There'll be some apex jumps. There might even be some blockers doing some apex jumps. We have that happen from time to time. So the rules for this game are the same as the first, but this game will run for a full hour, so 2 30-minute periods rather than the shortened game that we had last time. Just waiting to get a signal from the officials crew that we're ready for the skate out, and then I'll get to announcing who you're going to see on the track for this second game of the night. Okay, so we're going to welcome the Stone Cold Classics crew to the track. Number 105 is Perky Nana skating tonight. Got also Princess Di, 1-2. Red Peril, 1-4. Ruby Dread, 145. Manacle Emergency. This script is so tiny, 1-5. Rutherford, 2202. Stock is playing under 247. Venomous, 8008. Scrappy, 81, and Latin Bolt, 86. And Scrappy is your captain for tonight. Good luck reading the tiny, tiny font.
All right, rolling out for the crackheads, we have 101, Tough Rickies. We have Ray, 121, Precious Pickle, 179, Serrated Edge, 027, Ada Shutter Lace, 337, Gaz, 8008, Hot Rod, 85, Dizzy 50, 865, and Straight, 96.
And also, I've just been asked to wish Nell an incredibly happy 11th birthday. They're having their birthday party here tonight, and we are stoked. We'll try and get 11 points in the first jam for you, shall we? Nell looks surrounded by love. Amazing. And your officials crew tonight, your head ref is Pseudo Stripes, also supported by Greta Growlia, Soul, Vengeful, Swifty, and Crash. And our non-skating officials, Needles, Scrace, Rosebots in Disguise, Dr. Reva Song, Kate, Just Libby, V, and End of Daisy. Thanks to the crew for helping us keep the game safe, legal, all the points on the boards where they should be, and helping us decide a winner. So, yeah, as we talked about, the most important rule you need to know with roller derby is the team with the most points at the end of the game wins. You get points by getting your hips past the players on the opposite team, and you want to help your jammer get points and stop the other jammer from getting points. Kind of the most important principles, right? So we're now in the hands of the officials. You'll hear a whistle when we've got 30 seconds to go. Yeah, Murderoni on the chat saying, what an excellent birthday party. I reckon so. It looks like on the bench for the craft heads is Dex and Comet. And I cannot quite see who is on the bench. Jalapeno, and I'm going to say Crunch on the bench for the craft heads. Other way around.
Looks like Hot Rod cheering for the crackheads.
And Medical Emergency for the Stone Cold Classic. So you would have seen Medical Emergency in the last game, jamming up a storm with a huge grin on their face. Teams getting ready to play. Both teams opting to line up really close to what we call the jammer line. So that is, the jammers have to start behind that line and the blockers have to start in front of it. Jammers both pushing left and right, looking for space. And you typically find in the first kind of 2 or 3 jams per game, the teams are sort of feeling themselves out a little bit, working out kind of what works for them and how it works. Hot Rod able to come out and get lead jam, so is now in the position of controlling the length of the jam. Medical Emergency has removed the star from their helmet. Big hit out that looked like it was Pitbull. And Hot Rod through on scoring points. Hot Rod back around the track, finding a big gap on the inside line, and just has Latin Bolt to beat out the front, is able to do that, and now puts up another 4 points on this first jam of the game. Medical Emergency, 1 to beat. It is Scrape. Comes into a big pile up right in front of our desk and then runs straight into Raygun, but is out. Hot Rod caught up on Rutherford at the front of the pack there, but is also scoring points. Hey, I think that was 11 points. Did we do that on purpose? No, it was 12. For your next birthday, Nell, we'll get 12 points for you. Wishing you're entering into your 12th year, so we'll call that 12 points. A successful one for Nell. Venom on the chat says it might be Murd's birthday as well. I don't know. We'll find out. Stock jamming for the craft heads. And Bicky's straight up the inside line for the Stone Cold Classics. Smart play there from Stock, really forcing Bickies to call off the jam with just, it looks like only 1 point picked up on that pass. So really great play there.
And 1 point, but still got the simple classic, how you get a point on before the kids win.
Exactly. Ray Gunn is now going to jam for the Craft Heads, and we've got Ruby Dread for the Stone Cold Classics. Ruby trying to cut up the inside lane, Ray able to make it round the outside. So this is going to be a bit of a race between these two jammers to see who can get to the pack and score points before the jam is called. The pack is really speeding up, and it looks like Ray was able to put up I can't see if that is a 1, that looks like 1. Thank you very much. 1 point going on the board. So you can really see that when there is this kind of small space between the jammers, it is a really strategic decision about when you call that off. The timing is really key. It can sometimes work that if you don't quite get it right, you give points to the other team instead of getting them for yourself.
It's good to see that equally matched when they're one point at a time instead of just
Skating laps.
Yeah.
Hot Rod now jamming for the Craft Heads and Medical Emergency for the Stone Cold Classics. Both jammers really putting on the burners at the front there. Hot Rod just keeping an eye over their shoulder, just thinking, I'm just going to keep Maddie behind me, not in too much of a hurry to call it off if she doesn't have to. Beautiful leap, there was one for you. Lovely apex jump in that turn there for Hot Rod. Maddie taken out by Gaz and calls off the jam. So in that situation, the Craft Heads were the lead jammer, didn't have the ability to call off the jam, but were able to score points before the other team could. 1 point on the board for the Stone Cold Classics. They are on the board. 18 for the Craft Heads. Stock now going to be jamming for the Stone Cold Classics, and Bickies 101 for the Craft Heads. Everyone looks like they're having a whole lot of fun out on the track, which is kind of what we're aiming for here. Stock playing a defensive game, trying to funnel Bickies into the blockers before making their own way through. But Bickies is out and is the lead jammer. As far as I can remember, no one's been to the penalty box yet, which is a really great sign of a good, clean game. So we're into the 5th jam of this game, and so far, not a penalty. So we like to see that. That means everyone is playing legally, tidily, cleanly, and safely. Stock has removed the helmet cover but is now going to put it back on. Sometimes jammers will do this when they haven't made it through the pack to get lead jammer and they want to have the option, so it can be a little bit of a distraction technique where you kind of go, I'm going to take it off because then I'm forcing the other team to watch both me and the pivot because I might pass it or I might not. No points when you don't have the helmet cover on, but if you haven't made the initial pass yet, that's okay. So that was why when Stock came out of the pack, they then decided to put the helmet cover back on, so they were able to score points when they came back through. So it's a really smart thing to do to kind of split the attention of the other pack if you're kind of struggling to get out on that initial pass. Ruby Dread fighting their way through the front of the pack. Dizzy Gillespie out and jamming for the Craft Heads. Both jammers having a bit of a struggle at the top of the pack, but it looks like Dizzy is going to be out and lead jammer with Ruby not far behind. Gaz giving some instructions to the team on where they would like other people to be positioned so that they can all be on offense and ready to score points. And it looked like there the Craft Heads were opting to play a bit of person-on-person offense. So each one of them kind of trying to distract a blocker from the other team to create space for their jammer to get through. Score sits at 28 for the Craft Heads in yellow and 1 for the Stone Cold Classics in blue. Craft Heads really kind of taking early control here, closing down any opportunities that the Stone Cold Classics have to score points. And these are teams that don't ordinarily get to play together. So we're going to see, probably in this first 15 minutes of the game, them kind of working out how they're going to play together. So we've got a mixture here of people from the Rector City A and B teams and people from regional teams in Kapiti and from the wider Wellington region as well. Before they kind of get shut out of this game. Medical emergency lining up against Bicky's. Bicky's just blitzing straight through the ends. I could see the hand signal that they put up just before they went to go, and I was like, do not say anything. Medical emergency is not far behind, but Bicky's took a really great, smart inside line there and just took the space that her blockers opened up and was able to get through and called the jam off. So no points for the Stone Cold Classics in that one. So if you're enjoying this game, we have the rest of our season is sort of playing out. So the next game will be Rector City B is playing in Levin. And I'm just going to find the details of that. It's in August, I can tell you that much. The game is going to be Rector City B versus the Bay City Rollers. They're from the Hawke's Bay. It's the 9th of August at the Horowhenua Event Centre in Levin. So we like to kind of take the game around the region a bit and share the love. Indeed. And if this is kind of piquing your interest, do look at our Learn to Skate and Learn to Roller Derby programs. It's kind of how I got in. I actually came to a game not being a sports fan and ended up by the end of it standing on my chair and directing strategy from my very informed point of view, to the point where my partner was like, do you reckon you should probably just shut up and go and do this? So here I am 15 years later, still skating around in circles and hitting my friends on a regular basis. Oh, stop. Yes, there is junior roller derby. So, Julia, who is one of our skaters, runs skating for younger people here at the Kilburnie Rec Centre. So, lots of entry points into the sport. We're back in action. Hot Rod lining up the jam against Ruby Dread. Team in yellow opting to kind of put, looks like what they're calling a sort of a 2-2, so working in two pairs. Whereas the team in blue, the Stone Cold Classics, opting for what we sometimes would know as a 3-1, which is 3 people on defence and 1 person on offence. So a really nominated kind of offensive player. Indeed. So Hot Rod, as the jammer for the craft heads, has been sent to the penalty box, has been released. Great play there by Red Peril to clear Hot Rod out of the way, but they were able to, really able to absorb the impact of that hit and then get their way through. Gaz and Serrated Edge working as a pair at the front of the pack to hold on to Ruby Dread. And meanwhile, Hot Rod straight through on the inside line and picking up points. Ruby Dread is through, and Ruby Dread is being called the lead jammer. So that means they're in control of this jam. They can call it off when they want to. That was beautiful work by the Stone Cold Classics to clear the inside line for Ruby Dread, who has now put up 12 points so far in this jam. So we've gone from the Stone Cold Classics being on 1 point to being on 13, which is kind of changing everything. What did we say about them having to change it up, do something different? I feel like that meets that criteria. Hot Rod battling a wall at the front there, which was made of Red Peril, Venomous, and another blocker, and able to just get through. Ruby Dread now having to contend with Gaz and Edge. So Ruby Dread really putting on the pressure here. 16 points so far. Hot Rod has put 8 points up. This jam is probably looking like it's going to run the full 2 minutes, which ends now. I mean, I can't attest to having any special skills apart from reading a clock. So score is now 17 points to the Stone Cold Classics, 44 to the Craft Heads. But that was a big last jam. 16 points for Stone Cold and 12 points for Craft Heads in that last one. Yeah, although, you know, for all of that effort, really only a 4-point difference between the two. So, yeah, 4 and 0 is just as good as 16-12, right? It just depends on how much time you've got left on the clock. Raygun is now jamming in yellow. Fighting the inside line there against Princess Di, who just came up against Scrape as they attempted a run back. Di again going for kind of the last line of defence on Ray, which allows Stock time to get through and be awarded lead jammer. So we've got a wall at the front here of Stock, Rutherford, Scrappy and Red Peril, although Di now going back to play some offence for Stock, who was able to get through and put up 1 point for the Stone Cold Classics. Sometimes it feels like a lot of effort for 1 point, right? But you know what wins a game? 1 point. Medical Emergency now back out to jam, and Bickies also. Both teams starting with a full contingent of blockers, which we love to see. Still a very light game in terms of penalties, which is great. Venomous hoping to bump Bickies off the track there. Bickies able to kind of cut round to the outside, and it is lead jammer. Makes it look easy. And meanwhile, Maddie just caught up in that wall. Is dizzy, aided shove race and Scrape, but is now free and is out and able to start scoring points. Bickies having a bit of trouble in the back of the pack there. Kind of caught up on 105 was the blocker that was giving them some grief, but made the smart decision to call that jam off before the Stone Cold Classics could come around and get some points. Actually, Bickies picked up 2 points, so worth it. Can you smell that food? It still smells really good.
Yes.
If you haven't had dinner yet, I can encourage you to sample the mac and cheese. It is pretty good. No more mac and cheese. I've got bad news. As you were, people. But there are toasties. And there's nachos. And there's pulled pork burgers. I'm being given this by sort of like charades, and I am here for it. I'm real good at charades, by the way, just saying. Hot Rod is the lead jammer, just looking for that official to be pointing in the right direction. Oh, we had the magic hat. The magic hat. So Stock took the star pass and is now the jammer of record for the Stone Cold Classics. It's been known to be done. While you're having some delicious kai, also avail yourself of a beverage. Garage Project is our sponsor, and we have a great selection of their beers at the bar, but also some non-alcoholic drinks and some wine as well, if that is more your bag. Really pleased that Garage Project has been behind us for the last 10 years. So that's the inspiration for the team names and for the series Home Brew. We thought it was a really great play on what they do and what we do. Ruby Dread is now trying to work their way around the outside past Scrape. Is it caught up at the front there between Scrape and it looks like it is Pitbull, Precious. But is out and is lead. And Ada Shove Race is jamming for the Craft Heads. Really nice battle there between Princess Di and Ada Shove Race at the front of that pack, but Ada able to get out and force Ruby to call the jam. So the score, we're about a quarter of the way through the game now. Score sits at 22 points for the Stone Cold Classics and 51 for Craft Heads. Maths with me. 29 points between them. Still pretty close. Still pretty close. We recently had the Roller Derby World Cup, which was held in Austria. And so many of the players from Rector City represented, and some officials represented New Zealand at that tournament, which was pretty incredible to watch. Some of our friends and league mates playing on an international stage. And yeah, some of those games, right? 20 points was nothing, and the drop of an eye, the game changed. So. Bickies is out and is lead for the Craft Heads. medical emergency, just really trying to battle that front line. There's Ray Gun and Scrape and Gaz really just giving them some grief as they try and get through. And then Dizzy is also in the mix there. Hold on. So what's really great here about what Craft Heads are doing is they're sort of able to fluidly move between offense and defense. So Gaz just came in and played some offense for Bickies. Dizzy's now doing that. And now they're all switching back to playing a defensive role and stopping Maddie from being able to get through. But the communication required to do that is really kind of the main part here. So you can hear the players talking to each other and saying what job needs to be done right now and who's going to do it. So 8 points on the board there for 12 points for the Craft Heads. So that takes them to 63, and the Stone Cold Classics are on 22. We've got a chorus line of Everything is Awesome on the track. Thank you, Stock and Di. Team timeout is being called by the Craft Heads. So each team gets 3 timeouts in a game, which they use for a bit of a reset. Sometimes it's to stop the momentum of another team. Sometimes they just want to have a chat amongst them about what's working well, what's not. Sometimes they want to change up the rotation of the players they've got. So ordinarily you would have up to 15 people in a team. And one of the jobs of the bench crew is to make sure that not only are you sending enough people out, but that you're kind of putting out, I guess, the right mix of people. So sometimes the job is looking at what the other team, sort of what cards the other team has dealt and deciding what cards you're going to play in return. A little bit like, I don't know, playing 500 and trying to work out which of your cards you're going to play at which time to try and eke out an advantage. It's pretty strategic. Yeah, I guess it is like a Pokemon game. Yeah. And sometimes the helmet covers look a little bit Pokeball-ish. All right, enough of our inane chatter. We are back to the action. Stock jamming now for the Stone Cold Classics and Hot Rod for the Craft Heads. False start being called for Venomous, which just means that they were not in front of the line when the whistle blew. It's only a penalty if you don't then stop and let everybody else go past you. But if you don't listen to what the ref said, it's quite possible that you're going to end up in the penalty box for 30 seconds. Hard to hear, hey? Oh, Hot Rod using Scrape to great advantage there, just kind of using them as a shield so that they could then tiptoe their way along the inside line and past. Scrape now opting for the last line of defence play and getting up there with Pitbull. And you can see now the pack really spreading out. So as Gaz was talking about before, the players all have to be within kind of 10 feet of each other, and that's where you see them almost making like a bit of a human chain as they spread out. And yes, it's weird that we talk about it in feet. I will acknowledge that straight up, but 3.33 metres sounds weird. And we inherited this rule set from America, so we blame them. Sorry. You know, it teaches us to work in other systems, you know. You'll also see on the track, if you're looking, there's little yellow markers all the way around. They are kind of put out at about 10 feet increments. So if you're wondering how far 10 feet is, it's about that. When you play roller derby for a while, you kind of get used to it. It's actually 2 lengths of Hot Rod if they lie down on the ground. Yeah. Ruby Dread is out and is scoring points. So his lead jammer, Ray Gun, now also out of the pack. I'd like to note that Ray Gun had that name before the other Ray Gun took the name. So we're claiming our Ray Gun as the OG on that. Ruby Dread scoring points, defeating Gaz at the front of the pack there, who's now coming back to play some passive offense. And regrouping so that they can catch Ruby Dread. So the Craft Heads now kind of working together. Ruby Dread emphatically calling off that jam before Ray Gun could come and get some points. So 2 points on the board there for Ruby and 0 for Hot Rod. Now seeing Stock come back to the track for the Craft Heads, for the Stone Cold Classics. And Bickies is going to be jamming for Craft Heads. Bickies having a great game as a jammer and looks to be having a lot of fun doing it too, which is kind of the whole point of what we're doing here. Bickies has been on holiday. And our league is actually just returning from a winter holiday all up, so we're all kind of getting used to playing together again. Bickies out and is lead. Ada Chavre is being sent to the penalty box, so we'll sit there for 30 seconds, which means that the Craft Heads will play with just 3 blockers for this period of time. The pack is being sped up. They're kind of really going for it, really trying to speed it up so that it makes it harder for Bickies to get points, but it's also going to make it harder for Stock to get points. So some jammers kind of like it when the pack moves fast. They kind of like the chaos. It means that it creates more space. It's harder to stop when you're moving fast. Some jammers like it when it's moving slowly. Some jammers like it when the pack is going backwards, which actually means they've got less distance to skate. So if the pack is moving backwards, the skaters don't have as far to go to be able to get points. Looks like there is something on the track which Vengeful is fixing. Looks like it's some... So underneath this yellow tape around the outside, there is some rope so that you can feel where the edges of the track are, which is really great, except for when the tape rips and then it becomes a little bit of a tripping hazard, because if you get your wheel stuck under there, it's a bit dangerous. So we just have to keep an eye on that. Hot Rod is out and is lead jammer. Ruby Dread is not far behind. The Craft Heads really kind of putting some space between themselves and the Stone Cold Classics, limiting their ability to score. Hot Rod 4 and then calls off the jam before Ruby Dread can put any points on the board. Incredibly frustrating. When you're like, and you kind of, as you're skating around, you know the other team is going to call it off, but you can't rely on that because maybe they won't. So you've just kind of got to keep skating as if it's all going to keep going. So you skate, we call it skating to the 4th whistle. Stock jamming up against Raygun. Both teams with a full pack, and Raygun straight out the front there. So the real, I guess, key to the Craft Heads having this huge advantage in this game so far is they've been so good at getting lead jammer really fast. So one of the big kind of strategic things you want to do in this game is to have control over the jam. So if your jammer can get out and get lead jammer really fast, that means you're in control of the jam. You can stop it whenever you want to. And it also means that you're able to score points in the sort of allotted time that you have. If it takes, a minute or so for a lead jam to be established, it means both jammers have had to really work hard and fight to get through, and then they're really tired, so it makes it harder to get points. So what you really want is that really fast, getting lead, getting out, getting points, and be able to call it off. So this one's a little different. Both jammers kind of having a bit more of a battle, and Bicky's off to the penalty box. Ruby Dread now going to be the only jammer on the track for the next 30 seconds. Still kind of having a bit of a battle there, just trying to get past Scrape at the front of the pack. And although Scrape is now being sent to the penalty box, so good advantage for Ruby. It means there's only 3 blockers on the track, as well as not having a jammer to get past, but it does mean that the yellow team is really only focused on Ruby. She's got nowhere to hide because their only job is to stop her. Ruby is out and is lead and is looking very relieved about that. So Bicky's now fighting that 4-wall of defensive players from the Stone Cold Classics at the front of the pack. That is Di, Red Peril, and Rutherford, and the other person who I cannot see right now. But really having to battle against them. Meanwhile, at the back of the pack, Ada shove race, Gaz and Dizzy are working to hold Ruby. Scrape now coming up to the front of the pack to play some offense with Bickies and is able to bust them out. And is also managing to stop the other players from the Stone Cold Classics from being able to go back and help their jammer. So that was like a pretty hard jam for everybody, I think is what we can call that. 4 points on the board for the Craft Heads, 2 points for the Stone Cold Classics. There was a lot of work for 6 points. So just had a couple of questions on the chat about how the Star Pass works. So the skaters that you see with the star on the helmet, the jammers, the skaters with the stripe on their helmet are called a pivot. Their special power as a blocker is that they can become the jammer. A little bit like an axolotl, I guess. So if the jammer takes the helmet cover off, they then hand that jammer cover over to the pivot who can put it on, and they become the point scorer. And the person who was wearing the jammer cover becomes just a blocker. So they go back into the pack and play as a blocker. Now, the advantage to doing that is if your jammer is stuck or tired, or maybe you are on a 2-minute jam because the other jammer had lead and went to the penalty box and you just want to kind of put some fresh legs into your jammer, you can pass it over to that person to take the responsibility for the jamming. It also works if, for example, your jammer's a bit stuck, but you kind of want to split the attention of the other team, where you kind of take the panty off and then they have to watch you and watch the pivot at the same time. So that's a bit of a strategic move. Sometimes you do it just because you want to force the other jammer to call the jam off. There's some other stuff the pivot can do, which we don't really do anymore. It's a little bit archaic, but it used to be that we would start the blockers at the very front at what we call the pivot line, which is on the other end of that straight piece of track. And everyone had to line up behind the pivot. So the pivot would put their toe stop on the line, and everyone else had to have their hips behind the pivot's hips. Still gets used, not so much anymore, but there were a lot of times where you would put your foot on the line and then kind of lean right back and try and force a false start on somebody. I'd love to see that. So just while we're here and having a bit of a timeout, I'd love to do a huge mihi to our volunteers, to our ref crew, to the people from the ambulance who we love dearly but also love even more when we don't have to use them, to Roller Derby Streaming New Zealand who are here doing the coverage, to the NSOs, and to you, the people who come along and watch. Thank you for being here and trying to untangle this complex game that we seem to devote about 20% of our life to each week. Thank you. It's a lot of fun though, by the way. Ruby Dread jamming and Raygun is jamming for the Craft Heads. Facing a wall there of Rutherford and Princess Di. Really strong 2-wall there, but broken up, and Ray is now able out and lead and scoring points. And Ruby Dread up against Pitbull and Edge is out also. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here, whether Ray decides to keep skating or whether Ray decides to call off the jam, which they do. Yep. So 3 minutes-ish left in this first half. Craft Heads really establishing themselves in a dominant position here. They're just about to crack 100 points. Stone Cold Classics working it out. I'd love to see what the halftime talk is going to be for them. Do they change it up completely? Do they do something different? Do they just have faith that it's going to work out and keep sort of refining what they're doing? Because there are moments where it's really working for them. There's just not enough of them consistently to make it. Becky's out and lead and skating around, coming back for points, while Stock is really having to work hard to get past that wall of blockers from the Craft Heads. pack is at a standstill in the turn. Vicky's fighting their way through, able to find some daylight and through on the outside, but Stock stuck in that pack, has the helmet cover in their hand, and is trying to find a way to pass it off to Scrappy, and does. Scrappy with a little dance on the inside line on their toe stops to get past Gaz, and is able to just get past in time to put that helmet cover on. Vicky's with a little sweep through and in the pack. Great jam from Vicky's. That puts the Craft Heads at 107 points, so doing really well there. And Scrappy managed to sneak one in. Exactly. Because sometimes you'll see people come into the pack backwards. Because if you just need to get your hips past someone, sometimes if you can just like do a little shuffle backwards, that's all you need. Scrape and Hot Rod having a little corridor on the line here, obviously talking some strategy, working out what's going to happen next. And we're having an official timeout. You can tell it's an official timeout because this is what's happening. And that's the end of the official timeout. We are back in action. Hot Rod is jamming for the Craft Heads and Ruby Dread for the Stone Cold Classics. Beautiful three-wall there from the Craft Heads, forcing Ruby off the track and back and back. She was very quick to just reset and get around Scrape, who also couldn't get her off the track. High five. Beautiful apex jump from Hot Rod there to sneak the 4 points and call off the jam. You got what you wanted? Would you like a backwards apex jump? Or maybe a 180? You know, a girl can dream. Red Peril is now lining up to jam against Ray Gun. And again, we're seeing this move where the Stone Cold Classics were going for 3 people on defense and 1 on offense. And the Craft Heads started out with people in pairs, but then moved. So once they kind of played their offensive play, they then shifted one of their offensive players into playing defense. So a really kind of flexible way of setting up their pack. Red Peril with a beautiful spin on the outside to get clear of the pack. Meanwhile, Raygun just fighting the front against Perky and Rutherford and is able to make their way through. So score sits now at 119 for Craft Heads and 31 for the Stone Cold Classics, and that is the end of the first half. So we get a 15-minute break now. I imagine there are going to be some team talks happening. There'll be some motivational speaking. There'll be some eating of hummus, jet planes. I don't know. There's never a roller derby game without hummus. Probably some peanut butter. People will get their energy back, and then they'll be back for the second half. So pretty action-packed first half. We've had some apex jumps. We've had some power jams. Some star passes. Did we have a power jam? We had 1 power jam. 1 power jam. So come back in 14 minutes for the second half. Grab yourself something to eat. Grab a drink. Something is out. The mac and cheese is out. Public service announcement, there is no mac and cheese. There is pulled pork burgers, there is nachos, there are toasted sandwiches. Have I covered I've got the range? Excellent. Thank you all. We'll see you all shortly. back. We are just over a minute away from the second half of this game. So pretty exciting first half, 119 to the Craft Heads and 31 to the Stone Cold Classics. I'm going to play a little game called Start at Zero, which is, let's just pretend we're at the very beginning again and see how exciting the second half is going to be. Indeed. And I think that's often the chat you have at halftime is forget the first half, we're starting again from the beginning and pretending that even if you're winning, that you're starting from zero, and if you're behind, that you're also starting from that point. Just makes the whole thing a little more like you've got something to play for. So we're not far off. We're about 40 seconds away from the first whistle of this half. Hi to those of you watching on the stream. Thank you for being here with us to watch this game. And thank you to Roller Derby Streaming New Zealand for making the stream available. We really appreciate it. Refs are making their way back out onto the track, which means the skaters are not far off. So some of the skaters here tonight are coming to us. They play for Kapiti and also for Swamp City. So Swamp City is based in Papaoera, Palmerston North. And some of the skaters are from Richter City. So a bit of a mix-up here of Richter City A and B teams and some friends who have come along to play this evening as well. Ruby Dread 145 skating against Tough Bickies 101. Great wall of blockers at the back there. So Stone Cold Classics really did something at the half and had a chat about what they're going to do to stop the Craft Heads from running away with it. Ruby Dread is out and is lead, and Bicky's caught up at the back there behind Scrappy and Perky and Princess Di. Bicky's still caught up in the pack. Scrappy going in to catch them. Perky also coming in for a last line of defence hit. But Ruby Dread is scoring points and is putting them up on the board as we speak. So 4 points, 5 points on the board for Ruby Dread, and that's first jam of the second half. And that is exactly what the Stone Cold Classics needed coming out of the first whistle. Absolutely. One jam at a time. It's probably about 19 jams and a half usually. So 5 points at all of those, and there you are. That's 100, thereabouts. Ray Gun is out and lead. Stock, fighting their way through the back of the pack, has taken the jammer helmet cover off to kind of help, I guess, create some confusion or make it a little easier for them to get past. They're at the front of the pack, contending with a 3-wall. Ray Gun slides through the inside, but needs to go all the way back because they crossed the line and needs to come in behind the rest of the pack. Backwards through the pack, Ray Gun on tiptoes, and then calls the jam off, putting points on the board for the Craft Heads in this second jam of the half. So at the halftime, the team swapped benches in that, so the Craft Heads are now in yellow, sitting closest to the scoreboard, and the Stone Cold Classics are sitting to the other side. We do that because there is sometimes an advantage to how close you are to the track. So we swap it over at the halftime so that neither team has more of an advantage than the other. But strategically, being closer to the track means that you get the almost first pick of where you want your team to be positioned for that jam. So there's no fixed position as to where people need to line up when they get onto the track. The jammers just have to be behind the jammer line, but they can be anywhere across the track where they want to be. And the blockers can be anywhere between that line and the pivot line, which is another line at the end of the straightaway there. So it's about a 30-foot distance, and the blockers can line up anywhere within that space they like. So you'll see the packs sometimes. For example, look, it's almost like they were listening. Sometimes they line up closer to the front. Sometimes they will roll back into the jammers. Sometimes they'll start really close to the jammers. And that's all a strategic decision about how much of a run-up they want to give their jammers, how fast they think they can react, whether they want to roll back onto them and save space. There's a lot of different reasons for why a pack will set up in a different space, and they'll set up in a different configuration to try and position themselves for an advantage or to stop the other jammers. Great work there by the Stone Cold Classics. They really sort of spread the pack right out, and Princess Di was working really hard to hold Dizzy Gillespie back. Jam is called with 3 points going on the board for the Stone Cold Classics.
All you need is a button for the next couple minutes and 3 points.
Exactly. Stock and Ray facing off here in the jammers setup. And Craft Heads and Stone Cold Classics, pack kind of jostling for actually where they want to be set up. So they're kind of sort of splitting themselves up, kind of putting themselves in position where they want to be, but then kind of gelling into these sort of formations of what we call a tripod. So you've got one person facing backwards and the other two facing in the derby direction. Pitbull and Ada Shove Race really trying to stop Stock at the front. Stock out and lead. So if you are here for the Stone Cold Classics, this is great news for you. Ray looking to pass the star. They have it in their hand, but they haven't passed it off. But trying to use that distraction technique of can they pass it, can they not? The pass has been completed, so Scrape is now going to be the jammer for the Craft Heads. As when they get the star on their head, they'll be able to score points. But Stock decides they're not going to let that happen, and they're going to call off the jam before Scrape makes it back to the pack. Medical Emergency is now jamming, and Hot Rod. So we've got this formation here with the Stone Cold Classics deciding they're going to be at the back, and they're sitting up in a tripod position. So they want to catch Hot Rod and stop them from getting through. Not able to stop them on that inside line though. Meanwhile, Medical Emergency is also now caught up in a wall. Gaz is really kind of working them backwards and forwards, and then they've got Dizzy Gillespie, Edge, and I believe that is Pitbull, really holding them up. So Maddie trying to get their hips wedged between those blockers who are just not letting them have any movement whatsoever. Great job there by those blockers. Eventually have to let her go as Pitbull goes to the penalty box. And Hot Rod is also battling a wall of blockers. So has taken the jammer star off their head and is being recycled by Perky to the back of the pack. Perky doing a great job solo blocking and stopping Hot Rod from being able to kind of make any headway here. Meanwhile, Maddie trying to fight at the front. This is a really tough game for the jammers. Now there will be no lead in this jam. Hot Rod was lead but took the star off their head, which means they lose that status. So this jam will go for the full 2 minutes. It's an endurance sport sometimes, huh? It's a long 2 minutes sometimes. Pitbull recycling Maddie, but Maddie able to recover from that quite quickly. So both jammers are now scoring points. Neither of them are able to call the jam off. So this will go for the full 2 minutes. There's about 15 seconds left on the clock, so they'll both be looking to make an advantage where they can. They're sort of trading pass for pass at the moment. So far, both have got 11 points up on the board. Just waiting for the points to go up. Looks like 3 going up for the Stone Cold Classics. Just waiting for that to hit the thing. The technical word. So for all of that, for the 2 minutes that everyone worked really hard, The difference was 3 points. So you can see that's a really hard-won 3 points sometimes. 11 points on the board for the Craft Heads, 14 for the Stone Cold Classics. But the difference is only a 3-point margin. And that just sometimes is the kind of the cruel irony of all of the work that you put in. It can take you 2 minutes to do that, or it can take you 20 seconds, depending on what's happening. We have a timeout being called, so teams just taking a moment to regroup and reassess things that are going on. Just while we're here too, you might notice a few photographers out taking photos. So Clicks a Lot and Paulo Pics come along to a lot of our games and take photos. It's really hard to take a good photo of a roller derby player not pulling a weird face. I pull a weird face in pretty much every photo of me playing roller derby ever. And also open skate photography by Claire the Dex, who is benching tonight but is one of our skaters. Claire's just been to the World Cup to shoot photography of the teams over there and is hoping to put on an exhibition later this year of some of her photography. So really documenting roller derby and queer sport in New Zealand. So here's a hint for some Christmas presents for the roller derby player in your life. She's hoping to have a bunch of prints available from the World Cup, which I would be pretty happy if Santa brought me one of those, just going to say. Tough Bicky scooching around the inside in his lead jammer. Meanwhile, it's Ruby Dread fighting their way past Gaz at the front of the pack and is also out of the pack. Bicky's is having an excellent game tonight. Looks like they're having a lot of fun jamming and is just making short work of those packs. Seems to be able to just slide through sort of like the Matrix, bending their body around the other blockers to be able to get out. It makes it look incredibly effortless at the same time. The score now sits at 136 for the Craft Heads, 56 for the Stone Cold Classics. A new Pokemon has entered the ring. Scrape is jamming for the Craft Heads and Stock jamming for Stone Cold Classics. Scrape is lead. Stock is not far behind though, so this will be a race in terms of who can get points before the jam is called. Craft Heads opting to... No, I thought they were going to let it run. They decided not to. And the Stone Cold Classics did a great job there of setting themselves up defensively at the front of the pack, and that meant that Scrape had to go through all of their own players before they could get to the front and start scoring points. So that kind of forced Scrape's hand a little bit in terms of calling off the jam. Hot Rod and Medical Emergency now lining up to jam. Both packs opting to be kind of near the front of the setup space and rolling back to eat up some of that space before the jammers get through. Maddie nearly through, but with a lovely bump from Serrated Edge to kind of take them off the track means they have to recycle and come all the way back through. The bench for Stone Cold Classics is determined that that was a cut track, but it doesn't look like it's being called by the refs. So Hot Rod will continue on as the lead jammer. Medical Emergency still looks stoked. Medical Emergency has looked stoked every time they've come past this desk today. Hot Rod is out lead and scoring points. And jam is called. Now we'll see if I thought this may happen. So the Stone Cold Classics are calling for an official review. This is the first official review we've heard tonight. When an official review is called, each team has one available to them each half, and they're able to go in and talk to the refs. The captain and the alternate can go in and talk to the refs about a point of order of some kind. So this could be they think a penalty should have been called on someone that wasn't. They could say that the points are wrong, that any number of things. I'm going to bet $1 that they are looking for a cut track penalty to be assessed to the jammer from Craft Heads. And we will wait to see if that is indeed what they're asking for and what the refs determine from that request.
You find after official reviews that the change is often, or do you think the refs tend to stick with the...
Mileage may vary. I mean, you've got 7 refs on the track who have all got their eyes on what's happening. Typically, they will have a better view of what is happening on the track than someone on the sidelines. But that's not to say that sometimes things don't change. So I think typically your chance of winning an official review are not, I would side with them not, but sometimes you do, and it's worth asking because, you know, if it's an official review where you can get the other jammer put in the penalty box, then that is a win for you. If it's a really effective blocker that you're able to get them put in the penalty box, that can also be a win for you. So it's worth asking. You have that ability, why not? And if worst case scenario, you get a little rest. So Pseudo Stripes, the head ref, now going to the ref crew to relay the information that was passed on to them from the Stone Cold Classics who were requesting the official review. They will have a kōrero amongst the refs about what the situation was, who saw what, and they'll determine what they would like to do in terms of that. Their abilities are really to assess a penalty or to not assess a penalty, and sometimes it's about amending the score, but that's very rare. Normally you only have the 30 seconds in between the two jams to be able to change the score, unless points were put on the board in error or some other weird thing has happened, which doesn't very often happen because our non-skating officials are awesome. So you'll see one of our incredible non-skating officials walking the track at the moment. They're not just having a stroll. They are making sure that the tape is intact so that none of the doesn't cause a tripping hazard for anyone. So don't think that they are just going for a little wander. It's an important job and we really appreciate it. Okay, looks like the officials have determined their response to this official review. My lip reading is not great, but I did see Scrappy put their hands in the air, which means the official review has been awarded. I'm not 100% sure what the official review was for, but I can see the jammer for Craft Heads sitting in the penalty box, so I'm going to take a guess that my bet was right, that they got a cut track penalty assessed to the jammer from from Craft Heads, which means Stone Cold Classics gets to have a power jam and they win their official review, and the bench crew will be very happy about that. So Ruby Dread is now skating unopposed, but it does mean that every single one of those players from the Craft Heads has their eyes on there. Ruby is out, lead, and now able to score points, while Hot Rod serves the remainder of the penalty that was assessed to them. Gaz and Ray and Ada doing a great job at the front of the pack there, but Red Peril coming in and really playing some effective offense to break that three wall up and let Ruby Dread through. Just in time for Hot Rod to come back onto the track. Hot Rod attempted a star pass but then decided not to. She just held on to the helmet cover and is skating through the pack. Ruby Dread fighting a wall that is Ada Shove Race, Ray and Dizzy Gillespie. Puts 3 points on the board and Hot Rod picks up 1. So that was 7 points in that jam for the Stone Cold Classics and 1 point for the Craft Heads. Score now sits at 63 to 142. I mean, the spread's still pretty high, but the game doesn't look like that. I don't know if for you people watching in the stands, but to me it doesn't look like a game where the spread is so great. We'll see Tough Bickies now lining up. Both packs opting to kind of set up at the jam, at the pivot line and then roll back slightly on the whistle. Stone Cold Classics really trying to trap Bickies at the back there. Ray coming in to try and play some offense, but hasn't really been able to break Bickies out at this point. But the two of them working really closely together to make that happen. Di able to push Bickies off the track and makes Bickies re-enter behind that wall. And meanwhile, Stock also stuck behind a wall of Pitbull, Edge and Ada, I believe, yes. Ray with a last minute hit, but not able to stop Scrappy from getting through. Bickies is out, scoring points, and round the outside, calls it off before Scrappy is able to put any points on the board. It does look like everyone's having fun, I guess is probably the main point. Is everyone having fun? I think they are. You're having fun? Oh, okay. Oh, great. Someone's having fun. Scraper's now lining up to jam his medical emergency. Maddie trying to use some fancy footwork to trick Scrapers to where they are going to line themselves up. Beautiful work from Maddie to get through on the inside line there. Kind of use this real sort of fake out feet to get around. Maddie going for an apex jump, but not quite able to stick the landing. So the rules here are if you attempt the jump, you need to land with at least with your wheels on the track to be able to make the points. If you just jump and don't, so you fall over or whatever, then you don't get the points. So, well, you can put one hand down, so you could do a one-handed cart. Oh, okay, we're practicing this on Monday night. One-handed cartwheel. You can put one hand down on the outside of the track. Two hands, you're out of bounds. Hot Rod through and is lead for the craft heads, and Ruby Dread just got one to beat here, but it is Gaz. So, and now Ray has joined the front of the pack. So we've got this dynamic pair of Gaz, Ray, and now Dizzy Gillespie as well. Not able to contain Ruby Dread though, so she is out and is now eligible to be scoring some points. Hot Rod's through, points, done. Thank you very much, calling it off. 15 minutes gone in this half already, so we are 3/4 of the way through this game. Stone Cold Classic is going to have to pull something pretty spectacular out to win the game, but still having a great time. Every jam is a new jam and all those sort of things. Stock has been a persistent jammer for the Stone Cold Classic tonight. Really kind of put the pressure on the other team. Even when they haven't been able to get lead, they've done a great job of limiting the other team's ability to score by either keeping that pressure on or passing the star or taking the helmet cover off to really make them think about it. And it pays off because they are now the lead jammer for the Stone Cold Classics, which means they're in control of what happens in this jam. So Stock skating unopposed. Vicky's in the penalty box, but it does mean that the craft heads are really focused on stopping Stock from getting out. And you can see that at the front of the pack here. Edge, Ada, and Pitbull working as a triad to try and stop them, but Stock able to get round the outside and through for points. Meanwhile, Bickies has re-entered the pack. Did a little sneaky taking off of the helmet cover when they came out of the penalty box, just in the hope that no one would notice that they were back, but put the star back on in time to get back on the track for scoring points. However, Stock calls off the jam with 5 points on the board before Bickies can put any up. So Craft Head's kind of setting up in two pairs, and the Stone Cold Classic setting up with one person on dedicated offense and three people working together on defense. Does not stop Scrape from getting through and getting lead pretty much straight away. And that was what we talked about before, about having that advantage of when your jammer is out and able to score points straight away. It means you can kind of focus a bit more energy on stopping the other jammer, and it means that you're in control of what's happening on the game. So we now have medical emergency in the penalty box as the jammer for the Stone Cold Classics. Scrape skating unopposed, but facing a pretty formidable three-wall, which is Red Peril, Perky, and that is Rutherford. Not able to hold Scrape for too long though. Rutherford now pushing their way through, trying to get through that wall of Craft Heads blockers so that they can come up and play defence. Sees Scrape coming and plays some defence from the back. Feeds Scrape into the wall of other players. It was a really smart move there from Rutherford to kind of recognise that they could do something even though they were stuck behind the other wall. Perky with a lovely save at the front of the pack, pushes Scrape out and forces Scrape to call off the jam before Maddie comes around to get more points. That, I believe, was a 15-point jam for the Craft Heads, so it puts them at 165. Stone Cold Classics are at 68. So what are you seeing that's fun and interesting in this game, Dangerous Person? Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think it's interesting. You're just watching and trying to make a hole for the jammer, or you're not doing something different things.
Yeah.
It just depends on the situation. So typically, what I like to see it. And
Yeah.
as on the practice, did a fabulous job. Often the last line of defense, and usually by then I've lost a flag off coach. But guys is really good at blocking. And when you're there, you can knock them out of the ring as a last line. You can run all the way back. And then they're forced to recycle.
Exactly. And it's really tempting watching roller derby to watch the jammers because they're the ones kind of with the sparkly unicorn kind of thing where they're skating around the track. And they are fantastic to watch and they're incredibly skilled. But there is a lot of stuff that happens in the pack with those blockers as well. And as you say, like people who play in a pivot position or people who are playing in that offense position, there's a lot of skill involved in being able to switch between those roles as needed. So we've got Hot Rod lining up to jam now, and that will be Ruby Dread. Ruby is out and is lead. So just a couple of questions on the feed about what we call that sort of sticking the landing when someone does an apex jump. So when you jump the apex, you just have to land with one scale. I was going to say 4 wheels, and that could be also open to interpretation. 1 foot with 4 wheels has to land on the inbounds part. You can fall over after that, that's totally fine. As long as those kind of 4 wheels come down first and then you fall, then that's called sticking the landing. Back in the oldie days, you had to like be upright inbounds, yada, yada, yada. We let that go. So, but you don't get any points if you just jump and then kind of fall over in the middle of the whole thing. You have to get 1 foot down at least before you do that. And you also can't make contact with someone while you're in the air. So if you jump and hit someone, that's an illegal move as well, and you'll get a penalty for illegal contact at that point. It's all about safety. Don't really want people like launching themselves mid-air and making contact with people. It can be pretty unsafe. No. I hate to break it to anyone who watched Rollerball and thought this is what it was all about. Okay, so Ruby Dread is now lining up to jam against Scrape. We have about 9.5 minutes left in this game. So Stone Cold Classics would have to do something pretty spectacular. I've seen it done, I'm not ruling it out, but it does feel a little bit like the Craft Heads kind of have this one sewn up. So let's see what the Stone Cold Classics can do with the last 10 minutes of this game. Scrape coming around and trying to score points, being held up there by Red, Peril, and Perky, Nana, and Scrappy. Ruby goes for the apex jump, does not stick the landing before the 4th whistle, so is not able to get points. But it's always worth a go. If you're pretty close to the pack and it's in the right position and you know they're going to call it off, why not have a hoon? I did just say hoon. I reckon we should bring that word back. Have a hoon? You didn't grow up here, that's why. I'm gifting you that word. Hot Rod is jamming for the craft heads and managed to take all the way around the outside. Evades the blockers. Medical emergency. 1 to beat, now 2 to beat at the front, but is able to squeeze through between Ada and Ray. And meanwhile, Rutherford doing their best to bump Hot Rod out, but just not quite able to. Hot Rod able to stay in bounds. A lot of that comes from, we see people sort of being able to stay upright and in bounds on their skates after taking impact. So much of the work we do is about using your core, having the strength in your legs. We did a whole session last week about being on one foot, because so much of what you're doing in roller derby is reacting to things that are happening around you. So being good at skating is one thing, but being good at skating while someone hits you is something else completely. Well done, you get gold star points at training. That is Vicky's coming around the outside, is hit down and is going to have to recycle behind Perky. Ruby Dread, meanwhile, out lead, scoring points, doing their best to close that gap for the craft heads. And I wouldn't put it past them. You know, Ruby in the last game put 16 points on the jam, the first jam, put 16 points on the board the second jam, and which was kind of the clincher for their team. So they have form in this kind of high pressure situation. Star pass has been completed, so Gaz gets the magic hat duties and is now the jammer for the craft heads, but Ruby decides they will call off the jam before Gaz can start scoring points. So 4 points on the board there for Ruby, takes them to 74 points for Stone Cold Classics and 172 for the craft heads. It's getting chilly, huh? Do you know what warms you up when it's cold? Hot sauce. Do you know where there's hot sauce? On the nachos. Just saying. If I use enough subliminal power, I reckon we can sort of sell through all the nachos. A nice cold beer of the non-alcoholic or alcoholic variety, depending on what your flavour is, or a soda. Scrape jamming for the craft heads and is lead. Meanwhile, stock being rewound by Dizzy Gillespie, Gaz and Pitbull, and Edge also just kind of being there ready to catch stock as soon as they come back up to the pack. Stock really having to put the work in to get past. They pass the start of Venomous, who is now contending with Gaz at the front of the pack. Last line of defence. On 1 foot, no less. Venomous persevered and made it through the pack. Scrape decides they will call off the jam before Venomous is able to get any points. All of that work. But sometimes the job is just to stop the other jammer. So sometimes, you know, you'll go out to jam, you're not going to get any points, but if you can stop that other jammer from putting up a huge amount of points, you've done your job. Only one person can be the lead jammer. Sometimes none of you are the lead jammer. We've got Maddie and Hot Rod now jamming. There's only 4.5 minutes left in this game. Just under 5 minutes left in this game, so I think we're sort of getting into the kind of the final stage. If this was chess, it would be like the closing moves, whatever it's called. It kind of is like chess. Just people are like trying to hit you at the same time. Maddie is out and is lead and is scoring points for the Stone Cold Classics, which is what they need right now. So if you're here for the Stone Cold Classics, this is when the real kind of gold happens. Hot Rod being held up by Princess Di at the front of the pack and was by Scrappy. Maddie is out, calls the points. Looks like the bench was actually trying to get Maddie to keep skating, but so be it. Sometimes you don't get what you want. So I imagine what was happening there was because the Stone Cold Classics had lead, what the bench was trying to do was to get them to keep skating, because while you're kind of in that position, you are able to score points. Otherwise, what happens is you call the jam off, you lose 30 seconds off the clock while you're waiting for this reset to happen, and then you've got to get lead again and start scoring. So sometimes that balance is that actually it's better to just keep going, and maybe you'll trade some points with the other team, but you'll probably come out in a better position than if you have to reset again. So Vicky's out having a storm of a game tonight, just out and scoring points. Calls the jam before Ruby Dredge can get into any points, but it looks like there may have been no points for the Craft Heads and 2 points for the Stone Cold Classic. So Ruby Dredge able to steal some points there when not lead. Great work. Stock and scrape. I feel like there's sort of a recipe in there somewhere. Lining up. Smart move from the Stone Cold Classics. They've decided they were just going to roll right back and play some defense on scrape before trying to get out and jam themselves. Seems to have been successful because Stock is out and is lead. Scrape has been hit out of the pack and has to rewind back into the pack. So this is giving the Stone Cold Classics that advantage they really need at this point of the game. Red Peril and Princess Di both coming in for a last hit on scrape. Yeah. And it's interesting watching those skaters come in backwards almost to skate. Skate into scrape is hard to say. And sometimes that is just about feeling that you can get to where you need to get to faster if you're moving in that direction. But it is harder to have that agility that you need to be able to stop someone in that position. Yeah. Maddie and Hot Rod here jamming. You've got the Craft Heads putting up this 3-wall or a tripod or a triangle at the back, catching Maddie and just not giving them any space to move, which means that Hot Rod is able to be out, lead, and picking up points before Maddie is able to do so. Hot Rod stuck that landing by putting one skate down and getting the points before falling, so that is a legal apex jump. And meanwhile, Maddie's still stuck in that pack, trying to see some space. Just has Ray to contend with at the front, but is out, and still a huge grin on their face. I think Maddie's just having the time of their life every time they play roller derby. Hot Rod putting more points up on the board and calls that jam off. So, there are 40-ish seconds left in this game. This will be the last jam. Will the Stone Cold Classics pull out something incredible? Could they get 112 points, 13 points in the last jam? Unlikely, but I still think that this team has played with such incredible heart. It's been a really great game, beginning to end, in terms of the intensity that both teams have played with, the tactics they've put together, the way they've kind of worked as teams. Particularly this team, Stone Cold Classics, who don't normally play together. These are people from a bunch of different leagues playing together, so I think that's pretty admirable all round. Vicky's is not lead, which means that Ruby Dredge is lead. Ruby calls off the jam. There's 0 time left on the clock, which means that no one can call an extra jam. We are in the unofficial score of 85 to the Stone Cold Classics and 196 to the Craft Heads. We will wait for this to become final, and then I welcome you all to come down to the side of the track to give the teams a high five to round out the game. Thank you all for coming tonight. As I said, we have the next derby game is at the Horowhenua Event Centre in Levin on the 9th of August. From all of us here, thank you for coming, for your support, whether you're here in person or watching on the stream. Kia matata, get your cheers ready, grab your brew if you have one, and come on down for high fives. Thank you so much. I'm Rusty, see you next time.